Today I have a label swing birthday card. It says start each day like it's your birthday. Happy. And happy is embossed, so there's some neat techniques going on here, including making your own label swing card. So if this intrigues you at all, please stay tuned. On this card I'm going to be using the framed happy embossing folder. And I'm going to also use the green flourish shine design paper, the mottled cream paper, and the pink flowers shine design paper. And just a note, you will be getting 2 each of these sheets of papers in the bundle. And of course I'm going to be using the label swing card template. Alright, let's get started. Alright, to begin with, we'll want to make our card base. So I'm going to take the label swing card template and place it on top of this craft brown cardstock. And I'm going to take the main card shape and do that one first. So I've just got a mechanical pencil here, and I'm lining up the main card shape with the corner of my cardstock so that I can maximize the use of my cardstock here. And I'll only have to make 2 main long cuts for the sides of my card. Alright, oops. And you want to make it so that your template does not shift on you like it did on me. So I'm going to hold that down firmly while I trace all of the edges. First I'll go around the outside edge of the main card shape and try not to forget any slots here. And then I'll go on these 2 slots and these 2 longer slots. I'm just keeping to the right side of the slot on those vertical ones, and then I'm keeping to the clear part of this label shape here. And it really doesn't matter too much about that, which side you're drawing along, as long as you just keep consistent throughout your shape. Almost done. And then if you're not sure if you made all your correct lines, you can always kind of lift up and check, and that looks good to me. So I'm going to go ahead and cut. So I'm going to take my retractable knife here, my handy dandy, my trusted ruler with the metal edge. And if you want to be even more sure of your lines, you can always use the grid on your cutting mat. But I'm just going to use what I've drawn here and take my ruler along that line and make one fell swoop with the knife. And see, yep, there's a clean cut. Do the same with this cut here, just to get my card out of this big sheet of paper. And there we go. Now, for the inner shape, you're going to want to cut these lines. However, you do not want to cut the vertical lines. Those are supposed to be scored. So I'm going to do my cutting, finish my cutting first with the knife. Now I'm just going to take my retractable knife here and go carefully and slowly along each of these curved shapes. There are a few ways you can do the score lines. There's this way, which is taking the dull side of your blade and a ruler, putting it along that edge, and just dragging the dull side of your blade along the ruler, and that'll just kind of scratch the surface of the paper and break some of the surface fiber so that when you fold it, it'll have a nice crisp fold. Or if you have a score pal or a scoreboard of some sort, such as this, and this is a pretty large one, it's 12 by 12, actually 12 and a half square, but you just line up the line with the marking here, and it really doesn't matter. You can probably the easiest is to slide it all the way over. Although, if this happens where your line kind of goes in between the two markings, you'll have to scoot it over until you find a ridge that will match your line. Now I have a scoring tool here. It's similar to a bone folder here. And I'm just going to score along this vertical line. And I only need to score the top part above the label and the bottom part below the label. So I'm going to do the top part first, and I'm going to do this part as well. And then I'm going to actually pick up and turn around the card and do the bottom part separately, because it's kind of hard to jump through this space here and then kind of guess where your line is when you don't have any markings. So here we go. This one. And you want to press down hard enough so that your tool does not slip into a different ridge or kind of get lost on the scoreboard. And if you've had a scoreboard such as like the Score Pal for a while, you will definitely know what I'm talking about. Okay, now that I have all my lines cut and scored, this is ready to become my card blank. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this way on that score line and that way on this score line. You can take your bone folder or whatever you have, your fingernail also works, and sharpen up those folds. And there you have your blank label swing card. Alright, so now I'm going to emboss my happy into this, it's kind of like a parchment texture paper. The surface feels smooth, but it's got a nice realistic printed design on it, and it's a heavier weight of paper. So first thing I'm going to do is cut a piece of paper to fit inside my embossing folder. And I'll cut it just a little bigger than the folder. Don't have to be really careful here because you can always fine tune it after it comes out. And we're going to trim out the happy anyway. So I'm going to take, this is the Embosser, which is an electronic embossing and die cutting machine. And here are all of the platforms. We have A, B, C, D. So for this I'm going to do D, then C, leave out B because that's what you put in for cutting dies, and leave out my magnetic shim and put the embossing folder here. I usually go fold first and then A on top. Make sure my machine is on, and we'll slide this through. Alright, let's see how we did. Ooh, looks very nice. There you can see it a little bit better. The happy, and then some of the paper cracked a little bit, showing some of the white, which is fine. I like that look. But there's also something I've said in the past, which is you can spray the surface of the paper with water, just really fine mist. And that also helps the paper to mold to the embossing folder. So that's another option. I just didn't opt to do that this time. So, next step. Okay, so my happy is actually going to be on the large label, so not on the front, but on the inside, right here. And I'm going to take the large label paper pattern right here and place it. I'm going to turn this to the back, but I'm going to try and place it so that my happy is not cut off too much. Another thing you might do is look at this through a light source, and you can kind of see where you're landing. So I'm doing this off camera right now on one of my lamps. Sorry you can't see me, but I'm just centering the happy so that just a little bit of the H and just a little bit of the Y are gonna get trimmed off. Okay, so holding that in place, I trace around the whole shape. Trying to be careful because the embossed design is kind of bumpy. Alright, let's see how we did here. Okay, so here you can see the center of this has kind of been the center of the label there. And I'll go ahead and cut this out as carefully as possible. And tips for cutting out curved shapes, I just try to keep a steady eye, steady hand, and don't hold your breath, but just keep your scissors steady as you cut, and you can move your paper, but I find it is helpful to just keep your scissors as steady as you can while you move the paper along. And of course for the straight edges you don't have to move your paper at all, just for these curved ones. Almost there. Alright, so here it says happy on my nice little label. Alright, now I'm going to take in my trusted craft sheet here. It's a non-stick heat-proof surface, and it's just going to protect my work surface from this chalk, which isn't a big deal if you don't mind a chalky surface. It's easy to clean, but I'm going to use that anyway. So I have this Pebbles Classic Chalks, and there are 30 colors in here. This is just a plastic protective covering, which is very important to keep your chalks nice and organized. So it comes with this little alligator clip tool, and then you get 3 little cotton balls for each of these color sets. So I'm going to go with pink, since I'm going to have pink on my card. And so I'm just going to clip probably the medium cotton ball into my little applicator here, and I'm just gonna rub onto this bright pink until I get a nice amount of chalk, and go back to my label here and kind of chalk along my raised areas. Now it's okay if it gets on the background, because it's just gonna accent these raised areas here. And once you're done chalking this, you will be able to blow off the little chunks of chalk that didn't get stuck down. If you want, you can also set the chalk with a setting spray you can find at art supply stores, but I don't find that is too necessary with this kind of chalk. It kind of stays there, so you don't like really rub it too much. Should stay on the paper. So I'm just kind of tinting my happy here with this pink chalk. Almost done. And you can even go over it another time if you want a little more color. I'm kind of liking this subtle pink here. And if you want to, you can also go over the top design as well. I think the dots are fun, so I'll go ahead and do that. Alright, Alright, so back to my blank card here. On the inside is where my pencil lines are, so I'm going to go ahead and take my gummy eraser here and try and erase some of those pencil marks. And I do prefer this eraser because it's so flexible. It's kind of like silly putty, and it can get into those fold lines and erase those pencil lines. And I'll erase these edges too. And there's not really much to brush off, like a regular eraser would have those little rubber pieces. This one's pretty clean. You just kind of stretch and fold to another clean part of the eraser and it keeps on erasing. It's really cool. Alright, so once I'm done with that, I'm going to take my Happy and I'm going to glue stick it down. And you can use whatever adhesive you want, rollers, liquid glue, glue stick. I prefer this glue stick because it allows me to kind of slightly reposition my item before it becomes permanent, which is important because sometimes I don't put it down in the perfect spot the first time. So here we go. I'm just gonna center that in there, like so, and press that down. Okay, so we've got the inside label done. So this is the front and it'll show up here on the inside. Now I need to cut shapes to cover these side panels of my card. So on here it has these paper patterns. So these purple, this is the right side paper pattern and this is the left side paper pattern. The reason why this looks like the left side is because you're going to trace it on the back of your paper. So on the correct side of your paper it will be the left side, or the right side. Hope you get what I mean by that. Alright, so I'm going to do both of my pieces the same material. So I'm going to choose my pink paper and I'm just going to line up the corners with the corner of my paper and trace along the shape just like I did the card base. And once I'm done doing both the right and left sides, I'll go ahead and cut them out and glue them to my card. Alright, so here's where I'm at so far. I've glued both of these sides down, and I also cut a spine from the green swirl paper, and the label swing card template also has a pattern for the spine, which ideally you'll glue before you glue this label. However, I wanted to keep the brown space in between, so I just cut the spine and then I just kind of measured where it would end here, cut that off, glued it on. Same for the top. So that's that. Now I'm going to do the front label, and that's the small label. What I've done already is I've traced and cut out the small label shape from the green swirl paper. So that's going to go there, but before I put that on, I'm gonna put a greeting on it. Alright, so I went ahead and finished my card. It's a pretty simple look, so it's just got that one strip across the middle. So for starting with this small label, I just have a 1 1/4 inch strip of the ivory mottled paper, and I stamped and embossed "Start each day like it's your birthday" in gold with gold embossing powder. And so I matted that on a thin border of pink shine design, as you can kind of see there. And then, so I continued that strip along these two sides, except I matted it on the green shine design instead of the pink. So when you open, here's the rest of this strip. And as you can see, it's got the green matting on that. And for the flowers, these are some mixed blossoms by Petaloo. Yes, and so here's that package. And I'll link that on my blog. But The greeting I thought was kind of clever because it says, start each day like it's your birthday, happy. So start each day happy. So if you liked this card, please stay tuned for today's bundle, and thanks for joining me. So first in the bundle we have the framed happy embossing folder, and if you were to measure the actual embossing folder itself, it is about 5 15/16 almost, and by 4 3/16. So this actually fits well if you mat it and frame it on the hot off the press blank cards, which measure 6.5 by 5 inches, or if you prefer working in the quarter page size, which is an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. It still will fit on there, but it will fill the whole card, so that's also another option. So in addition to the framed happy embossing folder, oh, and I forgot to mention, you can use the frame separate from the happy, and vice versa, if you just cut out around the parts that you want to use. So this actually is a very versatile embossing folder. If you want to switch out your greeting, and instead of happy, you can have anything you want in there, even a photo. So it's kind of a nice embossing folder to have in your stash. Next we have a couple specialty papers. This is called Pink Flowers, and as you can see, it's got a fun little whimsical drawings of flowers, but the neat thing is that this is a glossy paper, and the actual design of the flowers is extra glossy, if you will. It really catches the light. And then this is a mottled cream paper. It's a thicker cardstock, and it kind of looks like aged parchment, so that's really nice for journaling or stamping your greetings and other things like that. And finally we have the green Flourish Shine Design paper, and as you can see, the design is very, very glossy. And finally the label swing card template itself. So this is a 12 by 12 size template, and it has, like all of hot off the press templates, it has binder holes for if you want to store this in a 12 by 12 binder. You can amass a good collection of these templates and have them all nice and organized in a 3-ring binder. So this is the card as I've shown it on this tutorial, and it even includes complete instructions as well as some images of ideas of what you can do with the card in order to decorate it and stuff like that. Alright, so that's the label swing card template, and that completes... Oh, and I forgot to tell you, you're not getting only one of each of these sheets, you are getting 2 sheets. So 2 each of the green, 2 each of the cream, and 2 each of the pink. So 6 sheets of paper, a template, and an embossing folder. It's a great deal, so I hope you won't miss it.